My name is Matt Irwin, and in this week's episode of People Who I have Always Wanted to Interview, I am interviewing Matt Irwin. Now, Matt is well known as a difficult interviewee subject. We've agreed, Matt and I, that we will meet at his warehouse where he prints, he sits, he thinks, he ruminates, and hopefully we capture him on a good day, a day where he's prepared to talk and share a little bit about the last 30 years of his journey. Thanks very much, Matt, for letting us come to the studio. Would you like to come and sit down? Yep. Yeah. Come and sit down, Matt. That'd be great. Yep. We're gonna get started. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get whenever you're ready.
I'll be there in a second. Yeah, just got to get a glass of water.
He's I think he's nervous, so we're going to get going in just a minute. Yeah. Okay. All right. Here he comes. He's coming. Hi, my name's Matt Irwin, and we're here with this week's episode of Matt on Matt, and we've come to Matt Irwin's studio to talk to him a little bit about him, find out a bit more from the man himself. It's the best way to get answers is to ask directly from the horse's mouth. So that's what we're doing today. Thanks, Matt. Let's kick it off. Okay.
Let's be honest.
Great.
I'm not really that comfortable around cameras.
Well, hello everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you, Matt, for allowing us to be here in this very special and personal space of yours. It means a lot to me and to the viewers. How are you going today?
It's lovely to meet you too. Thanks, Matt, for coming down here. I know it's a bit of a hike, but the freeway's good, and I'm only like 1 minute off the freeway, so it's not that hard. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, look, let's dive in. Let's dive into this crazy process, shall we? Let's do it. So Matt, tell me, why are you here? Why this warehouse? Why this place? Why this suburb? Why this type of environment?
My old office was basically full, and it was just full of boxes. It was basically like a submarine where there were just these thin pathways that you could walk around, because we were literally floor to ceiling, just floor to ceiling boxes. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So, plus my office was in the inner suburbs, so it kind of just didn't make economic sense to be warehousing books in an inner suburb where you can do it for, let's say, 1/5 of the price, 1/4 of the price, something like that out here. And strangely, the travel time from home is exactly the same.
Fantastic. Oh, well, that's so great, isn't it?
So yeah, that's here. And I get to custom build this space, make it what I need it to be, what I want it to be. I've got this great mezzanine up here where we do the printing, and it's the computer area and the studio where I do shooting for my YouTube channel. And then downstairs is packing and logistics and all that sort of stuff. So we pack orders, pack book orders, we collate greeting card orders, pack posters. I've got a range of posters down there and so on. So that's kind of the fulfillment area, and up here is the production create area. And I do about half of my printing onshore here in Australia. So my latest calendar I did printed here in Australia, and then books where the binding and the finishing is more complicated, unfortunately, need to be done offshore I'm trying to do, I did everything in Australia up until 2012. But yeah, you just couldn't create a competitive product and have it in store at a competitive price if you were going to do it here in Australia. So sadly, with those things that require more finishing and more binding here. So this is why we're in the warehouse. And unlike my last space that was full, this place is not full yet. We've still got some room to grow, which is great.
Oh yeah, that's great. I mean, I can see how space. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, space makes sense. You can do whatever you want here. Scream as loud, sing and dance as loud as you want. So Matt, a lot of the viewers would like to know, why did you end up a photographer? How did you end up doing this for the last 30 years? I mean, that's a pretty big deal. That's a long time. Most people don't spend in this day and age their life doing one thing. One thing. That's impressive. What's the key?
When I was a teenager, I was very inspired by a film called Blade Runner, directed by Ridley Scott, and I just love the aesthetic of that film. And even so, I was 11 at the time. I think it really made me excited about the power of the visual medium, you know, what you could achieve within a frame, what you could achieve with light, what you could achieve with atmosphere. And so that stuck in my head. I was an 11-year-old. I think I kind of wanted to be a filmmaker, and I actually studied filmmaking for 1 year after high school, which really was a multimedia course more than actually filmmaking. We did 19 subjects in 1 year. It was a bit crazy. And photography was 10 weeks of that, but that was pretty much, here's a camera, you go do what you want to do. And I'd already been shooting at that point in time 35mm for about 5 years, and I just used that time as an opportunity to print my own work. And even today, there was an image that I took that year in 1989 that still sells today and is in my first book. So I did want to make film, but then when I finished that course, I very quickly realised that filmmaking, because back then, unlike today, filmmaking was ridiculously expensive. Whether you were going to use a film camera, 16mm film, or whether you were going to use something like a Betacam, either way, it was absolutely unattainable for just an everyday person. Unlike today, where you can buy a $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 camera, whether it's a Z50 or an A7R III or whatever it is, that will shoot 4K broadcast quality video, and you can create the product in your own backyard on your computer. This simply was not the case. So filmmaking, for the reasons of economics and the reasons of you needed a team, and as an 18, 19-year-old, I couldn't find enough people who were interested or dedicated enough to do it. So a very close second for me was photography. So that's what I did. It still was a visual medium. You could still flex all of the same muscles, largely. And yeah, so that's why I followed photography. And I basically, I had no desire to make a living out of it, but I was very, very inspired by the city that I grew up in. Melbourne is a very photogenic city. It has lots of moods and lots of atmosphere. And at the time, I couldn't see it being portrayed in the late 80s in the way that I was seeing it. I couldn't see anyone photographing it that way. There was nothing being produced. So that inspired me to go out and capture what I did. And then after a while, people used to say, oh yeah, you know, this stuff's pretty good. Maybe you should try and sell it. And so I started at a market and I started selling it, and very quickly, within the space of just less than a year, it turned into a full-time job with a full-time sort of wage. And you know, I was 19 at the time, and yeah, very lucky to be able to find what I love and be able to turn it into something that worked. And that was literally 30 years ago. So that's how I got started in photography. I've always kept my hand into filmmaking and video making, always, and have made during the 90s, the noughties and the 10s, music videos, TV ads, short film, and then of course, you know, there's my YouTube channel where I've now made 170 odd little videos that you can go watch right now. Yes, you can.
Okay. Wow.
Now.
Yeah. Great.
Do that.
Wow. Okay.
Jedi mind powers. I'm looking at you. You're looking at me. Let's look at each other. So yeah, that's photography and filmmaking. Both are they're very close.
Oh, that's truly, that's a
very
great
close to each
story. Fantastic. Ridley Scott, hey? Ridley Scott. Oh, I have to say I love his films too. And he's still cracking on, the old Ridley. Didn't he make a great film with Kevin Spacey just a couple of years ago? Oh no, they cut Kevin out. They cut Kevin out, didn't they? They cut him out, yeah. So the viewers have asked, they're wondering, what has been to date probably the best photographic job that you've had so far?
I have been very lucky over the years, Matt. I have, yeah.
More than one. Wow. Makes
to
sense.
have done some creative jobs which have taken me to places that I just simply never would have had the opportunity to go to without these gigs coming along. Probably still my favourite ever is working with the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra. I worked with them on and off for about 10 years, and the absolute highlight of that 10 years was going on their first European tour. It was something like 7 years or 9 years or something, and I was the embedded photographer on that tour.
The music,
Amazing.
Oh, the music,
and
amazing.
To be a part of the music. So I had access all areas, which meant I could photograph during rehearsals. I'd literally be walking inside of the orchestra between all of the, you know, I would be in the wood section or the wind section, timpani section. Yeah, and just to be a part of the music. And then we travelled to some of the most amazing destinations in Europe. We went to London, Scotland, Amsterdam, through Germany, Copenhagen. And, you know, it was extraordinarily hard work because I got up with the orchestra, photographed from breakfast, through the day, through the rehearsal, through to the concerts, through to the VIP events that they went to that night, and then I had to download and file all my images back to Australia to get into the newspapers each day. And, you know, one of the nights we were with the Australian High Commissioner to England, and so that stuff had to go back straight away, and, you know, that finished at 1 a.m. And then on our final night in Copenhagen, the event was with Princess Mary, and she was part of it, and that was just all very amazing. Further to that, Princess Mary is now European royalty, but she's an Australian from the same town that my mum was from. So, you know, it was all just pretty magical and pretty special. And yeah, so the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, fantastic. Another great adventure that I had was being commissioned to go out onto oil rigs, which I did twice. And I actually had to get my Hewitt training, which is helicopter underwater escape training, as well as offshore facility abandonment, which means basically jumping from high places into water, being able to climb into a life raft and set off a flare. So not only was that fun, getting my certification, one big part of it was being put in a helicopter, strapped in a dry suit, got to shut your eyes to emulate darkness. We crash land in the water at night, all power goes off, we're in the middle of the ocean, it's pitch black, close your eyes. Helicopter inverts, it goes upside down, and then you have to be able to get the door off. You had to escape from hold on a second, you had to escape from a helicopter underwater, upside down with your eyes shut. Yeah, not for me. Couldn't have done it. No chance, no way. And swim out Now, one of the biggest problems for people in that situation when the helicopter's gone upside down underwater is you can't really tell gravity underwater, so you swim the wrong way. You swim down. That's terrifying. So we did that. I passed. I got to go out to the oil rigs, and as much as you know, my personal concerns around our uses of fossil fuels, seeing the effort and the scale and the danger and just the magnitude of what we do to extract these oils out in the middle of crazy oceans, whether it's up in North America around Alaska or Canada, or whether it's the North Sea in around England or Bass Strait here in Australia. These are all massive oceans that are difficult to work in and have all sorts of problems. It's pretty inspiring. A lot of effort is gone to so that we can turn on our gas stove and boil an egg. It's pretty crazy, don't you think, Matt? I do. I think it's pretty crazy. And you know, the reality is, for me as a photographer, it does seem to be a little bit easy to put a solar panel on the roof and get energy that way. Yeah. I was employed to go to China, Mongolia and Russia for Intrepid Travel's first ever tour, and so my job was to capture the sites, and so I got to go on that trip, which was a 3-week trip on the Trans-Siberian Railway, and I can give you a link and you can watch it up here to see. That was one of the last things that I shot on film. I think it was 2002, and it's all film, and it was a beautiful little adventure. Yeah, it was great. It wasn't little, it was 3 weeks. It was all by train. It was amazing. I think we covered 1/3 of the world by train because it's just so far from Beijing to St. Petersburg. Fantastic. Journey of a lifetime. Plenty of other things, but let's call those the top 3. China, Mongolia, Russia. Great gig. Some good gigs there, I'm sure. Yeah. Wow. Matt, thank you so much. What an amazing array of opportunities and gigs you've done there. And wow, that's spanning many years. The viewers are also very keen to know, what was your very first camera? Yeah, 35mm camera. Let's start. Let's go there. First 35mm camera. Tell us about it. Well, first camera. My first camera, Matt, was the Pentax. My first camera was my 35mm, was my Pentax K1000. It was manual everything. It did have a light meter. I wouldn't say it was very accurate. So I learnt to estimate exposures a fair bit. I also learnt to be a pretty good printer of black and white negs. And so that Pentax K1000 probably went on for about 5 years. And then I got a replacement to that, which was the Pentax SFXN. A beast of a camera. It did have autofocus. Wasn't very good, and it had slightly better metering, but none of it was very good. And instead of me having to manually wind on the camera, it did have a motor wind. That was a big deal to have a motor wind. Yeah. So the Pentax K1000, absolutely bulletproof. I've still got the camera. It still works. Still fully manual, but great. And film, of course, which I used to hand roll my own film. So you'd buy it in 100-foot lengths and roll it into maybe about 5-foot lengths. And I think they were 100 feet, maybe they were 60 feet. You know, I can't really remember. But that was fun. And so I used to roll my own film, develop my own film, and dry it and all that sort of stuff. But it was very difficult to keep scratches and dust off. It's no wonder Photoshop calls that filter dust and scratches, because they were the issues with negative, dust and scratches. Right, you used to roll your own film as well. Never knew you could do that. That's cool. So you get 100 feet of film and then roll it yourself into a canister in like 2 meter strips, almost 2 meter, yeah, wow. And so when digital came along, I was very happy to never see film ever again, and I will never change that. There's so many reasons why I'm happy to see the back end of film, but that Pentax K1000, great camera, still a great camera. And I only had one lens for so long, and you know, we live in such a different world today where we change over cameras and so on so fast, whereas for the first 10 years of my photographic life, there was a 10-year stretch where I would have had one camera, almost 10 years, probably I reckon maybe a 7-year stretch where I had one camera and about 2 lenses, and that was it for the entire time. And then at the end of that stretch in 1997, I got the Nikon F5, and that really changed the tools that I had. To go from the Pentax to the Nikon, to go from mediocre focusing system to fantastic focusing system, fantastic ergonomics. And I looked at the Canon and the Nikon at the time, and it was the ergonomics was the reason I chose Nikon. They both shot about the same sort of frames per second. I believe the Canon's focus was marginally faster. That didn't really matter to me. And it was all about, so Canon had a wheel on the back that you had to turn this way, round, whereas Nikon was the button, which of course is still there, all the controls are still the same. And the Nikon you could shoot one-handed. You could change the settings one-handed, and the Canon you couldn't. And that was the reason that I went Nikon back in 1997. Well, from Pentax to Nikon, to Sony, to Hasselblad, to Canon, you've kind of been all over the shop, haven't you? So Matt, I'm really intrigued to know, what is the secret of your success? How are you still here after 30 years? The secret to success, oh gosh. Look, I would say the biggest secret to success, there isn't one, there might be 2 or 3, and that is perseverance. You know, you really just have to keep at stuff. You've got to know what you love. You've got to not be influenced by others, and you've got to just really stick to what you believe in and what you think is fantastic, and believe in yourself and just go for it. Because it's very easy for naysayers, and in these days we'd call them trolls. It's very easy for them to throw you off your game. And then that segues very nicely into probably the most important part, which is originality. You just have to bring to the table something that's you or different. We have so many people in the photographic space today that if you're not bringing some form of your own voice to the table, you're just the same as everyone else and you don't stand out. Like, it's just critical. My clients, my photographic clients, employ me because I am fast at what I do and I use natural lighting 99.999% of the time. And I can create a cinematic look, I can create a great look that way, and I do it quickly. But when I'm creating for YouTube, it's not always my intent to do that, and I'll talk about that. But anyway, to roll this back, because I'm rambling a little, I suppose, is to say that be yourself, keep changing it up the way you want to change it up. There is no one right way to do anything, except maybe audio levels. Audio levels kind of just have to be right. But besides audio levels, sorry about that, besides audio levels, no, but look, this is a creative environment, and you might even with audio levels want things to be a bit quiet, or you might want them to be distorted, and then somebody doesn't get it. You know, I had once someone say to me, oh, your backgrounds are blown out, you don't know what you're doing. No. I deliberately blew out my backgrounds because I like to do it. You know, I have been shooting short depth of field forever. Be original, keep doing what you want. Don't let the naysayers drag you down. Don't let that happen. I think it's super important to give it a crack your own way. And if we all went for the same homogenized look, well, we'd all look the same, and that would be pretty boring, I reckon, and we wouldn't get creativity, we wouldn't get difference. That's my 5 cents. That's amazing. You know, I pretty much hadn't thought about most of anything that you just said there, and that's quite illuminating as to how all of this stuff happens. I'm really quite impressed. Thank you. That's great. Now, so here on YouTube, we always love what's next. What's the next piece of gear? How are you coping with your gear acquisition syndrome, Matt? What are you wanting to get? So the Insta360, yeah, the Insta360. That's going to be my my next purchase. What I want to do is live stream, Matt, to the viewers and show them what I do, how I think, what's my process for creating my streetscape photography. So it's about assembling all the pieces, being able to get the audio right and the vision right and the streaming right. So it's quite complicated and a lot more moving parts than just a normal YouTube vid where you jump in front of a camera and hit record and there's not too much that can go wrong because you can edit. This is a whole different ball game. But I don't think many people have done it, and you know, this is part of being original and pushing the envelope, which is what I love to do. Yeah, it's great. Wow, that sounds like such a great idea. You want to do a live, let's just go through this. You want to do a live shoot, one of your streetscapes. You want to do a live version of that. You want to strap a VR camera to your back so people can watch and they can look wherever they want to look in 360 degrees, up, down, all the way around, and they can talk to you live while you're doing this, while you're shooting, while you're going through your process. That's nuts. Really? You're really doing that? Well, that sounds completely awesome. I love that idea, and I can't wait for you to do it, and I reckon the viewers can't wait either. Let us know in the comments if you can't wait. Like if it has to happen now. That'd be great. Probably won't happen right now because the software's not out, as the man said, but yeah. So Matt, can you tell me what's your favorite thing that you've created so far? You know, I know you've published a lot of stuff. Yeah, well, I'm so glad you asked about my favorite product. There's heaps. Like this one, my journal, which is 118 pages. There's an image or two on every spread, and on the other side there's blank, so you can write your own notes. I love this product because it really turned out. Let me just open it here. It really turned out how I wanted it to. It's exactly what I wanted, and so that's always the best when things turn out as you envisaged. So you know you've got a little strappy thing, keep it shut. That was lovely, and then there's an area at the back. You can put awesome little bits and pieces, and then there's all this just I don't know what page we're on. I'm randomly opening them. I've managed to open. This is my sense of humour. A blank page in the journal. There you go. That's pretty funny. So this has been one of my favourite products, and yeah, just really cool. Exactly the sort. I mean, I try to make things that I would like to have and that I would love. So check that out, Matt. And then mounted images. So mounted images I've been doing the whole time since 1990 through to now. Still sell these. Have sold so many of them over the years, and I just love it. It's a print, which I used to hand print these in a darkroom. Now I use my Epson P2000, 20,000, or it's called the 220 here in Australia. For some reason it has a different name. Yeah, and these are beautiful G-Clay archival prints, printed on archival luster or cotton rag paper, and Epson rate the inks in these things forever. And I love this product, and it's just improved and improved over time. So love it. There you go. calendars. I've been doing a calendar every year since 2003. So this is the 17th edition, and just so excited to still be making these things. I basically release a new product every year, so I feel very privileged to be able to do that. It's very exciting. Love this calendar. Put something moody on the front. Then I got into books. I love making books. They're just such a beautiful, it's so lovely to sit down with a book on a comfy chair with a cup of tea or a coffee, a biscuit, and just flick through it and just take your time. And you can spend an hour looking at these books, even if you just spent like 30 seconds to 45 seconds with each image, that's going to give you over an hour. And with this book, I did 3 different jackets. So there's literally, it's an identical book on the inside, but the outside has 3 different looks so that you, the customer, can get the look that suits you. And that's just an idea I had around people being able to feel more attached to it because they get to choose. And it's been a really successful strategy. This one had 3 jackets, and the big book, the first book, the original Melbourne A Love Affair book, which I won a Melbourne Award for. Yes, I did, Matt. I won a Melbourne. Did you know that I won a Melbourne Award? Did you? You haven't asked me about it. Yeah, I won a Melbourne Award. We can talk about it later. So anyway, the first book that I won a Melbourne Award for, that had 5 different jackets. So cool. Anyway, books, love books. Got another book coming soon, but we're going to talk about it. Love books. As a little aside, and I've forgotten to talk about greeting cards. So I've made something like 300 different titles of greeting cards, printed anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000 of each of those. So I've got over 1 million greeting cards produced, sold the majority of them. Bookmarks, they're a bit of fun. It's a bit hot, you a bit hot? You look hot, I didn't mean it like that. So yeah, anyway, there we go, bookmarks. I've done countless bookmarks, over 100 different titles. And this was a colouring book, which was a bit of a crazy craze. Here it is. My photographs, a guy working for me at the time, and I spent about 2 or 3 months we tried to just use filters in Photoshop, but we couldn't, so we ended up hand drawing over the top, tracing, I suppose, hand drawing over the top of these images. It took us about 2 days per image, so yeah, there's a lot of work in here, a lot of hard yards in here. Let me try and do this Peter McKinnon style. Here we go, because I am not as cool as him. There we go. Oh yeah, that's it. Did it. Oh, got it. It's good. And then of course artwork. Big stuff. So I've been making big artworks for a long time. Yeah, you know, this has been a big part of my world. There you go. And prints. This is one of my favourite prints of all time. This is called When You're a Jet, printed on cotton rag paper, and this is very archival. Epson said it would last 350 years plus, if stored in the correct conditions. And so prints and canvases framed and so on, very, very big part of my business. Very, very big part of my business. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And all of these things, of course, can be found on my website. Yay! Well, everybody, thank you so much for being here today. Beyond awesome. This is just the first of many the 2 Matts, Matt on Matt, episodes that we're going to do. We just thought we would start it off by being here in this creative space of yours. So we would like to thank you so much for allowing us to be here today. It really means a lot to me, means a lot to the viewers, and hopefully it means something to you as well. I hope it does. So everybody, thank you so much for joining Matt and I today to talk about Matt. And we'd very much like to see you again when the 2 Matts get together for next time. And thus, we would love to hear your questions. If you could please give us your questions for Matt, I would be excited by that, and I'm hoping Matt would be excited by that too.
Thank you so much. Okay, bye for now. I forgot to ask favourite product. Where'd that one go?
Well, thank you everybody so much for joining me today for the first Matt on Matt episode. There will be more coming, and I know that you'll enjoy it as much as I have. And of course, if you've enjoyed what you've seen here today and this is your first time, please subscribe, please share. I think it makes us all smarter. Please like, because it helps get the word out there. Please comment, because the more you say, the more I know on how to create the more that I need to say, so that we all know. You know? Lovely. There's over 150 episodes you can watch right now if you click down here on the Matt Irwin Photography and come and visit us in our gallery. All right. See you next time for Matt on Matt.